The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 3, Thank You. Now, I would like to preface this review with three different things. First, they really know how to write a character and make them go from an a-hole to right around to a-hole again by the end. Two, I don't know if Glenn is actually dead. I've read some comments where people have said they've seen some stuff, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that Glenn lived just because, there's some behind the scenes pictures and stuff. Because they shoot stuff in all sorts of different orders for TV shows, so you never really know. Like, they might not do the same thing, so it, could be true, it could be false. But seen some comments. There are some spoilers out there. You guys can look them up. I will avoid that. But I don't think he is. Mostly because of the way they shot the ending, and that would be a real crap ending for a character. And three, I don't know if this was just a reference again, like, because they do that a lot to the comics, or if this is gonna happen. But this might end up being Rick. Like, you see, there's like nothing right here. That's because Rick only has one hand in the comics, and I don't know if they're doing that or if that was just like a thing or what. But he had blood from that zombie cut through him, and it's in his system. So I don't know if that's happening or what. But those are my three things that I just want to get out there in the beginning. Obviously, there will be more detail as I continue on, but those are the three biggest things in this episode. But it was an amazing one, for sure. This one, coupled with the last one, they've killed more people that we couldn't care less about than they have in this entire series. Even during that war scene, I feel like more people survived that. Like, they killed a lot of people, but I feel like more people survived that crazy war than they did in this episode and the last episode combined. Like, we just saw so many people get killed off, both good and bad, and it was pretty crazy. And I love this episode for what it did, because this is one of those episodes where they kind of mess with us a lot. And it starts off, it's like, okay, we have, three of our main characters. We have Michonne, we have Rick, we have Glenn, and then we have one of our newer characters who's going to become a main character. I totally forgot his name at this point, but we have him. And so they're talking, being Rick, he's like, not all of them are going to survive. If they slow you down, you keep on going, you get back home, and I'm going to go off, I'm going to, get the hoard, get the RV, and try to kind of get the hoard away from Alexandria. So we have that at the very beginning. They aren't all going to make it. And then by the end, only one of them really does. Like, I don't count the guy who I know is going to end up being a main character because he's in the comics. I mentioned that in the last review. And so I was like, I'm not even remotely worried about him. He doesn't even count as far as them, because I know him, that he's going to be a main character. So it was like, who out of these people are going to make it? And by the end, it's one guy. And it's certainly not the guy I thought that was going to live. I thought the husband would at least make it to the end, because that would have, he was dead anyway. I was like, they could at least give the guy that. And I thought, okay, so he might make it. And I thought maybe the guy who got shot, I was like, those two might end up making it. And I was like, that's pretty much it. I didn't count Nicholas because I didn't think anything of it, but he killed himself, which, like I said, point 1 or point 2, I guess. No, it was point 1. Point 1, he went from full on a-hole with with that scene, which was probably like one of the worst deaths we've ever had in the show. So he caused that. Everyone hated him. Glenn was super nice. Glenn, being awesome Glenn, was like, no, let's keep this, under the radar. He told his wife. That's pretty much it. It was like Maggie, and if I remember right, she was talking to Rosita about it. And it's like, that was it. No big deal. You're working, he's working through it. He seemed like he was actually working through things in the last episode. In this, it was like, okay, things are kind of working. Then we had that little scene where he was running. I thought maybe it was something simple, like he had something mentally. He was just having like an actual aneurysm or something random like that would just poof. He just would drop dead. And then it goes through. He's freaking out. He's freaking out when him and Glenn are together with the horde. He's like, okay, they're that way. They're this way. What the heck are we gonna do? The building was already burnt down, so we can't use that as the signal like we planned on doing. What the heck are we gonna do? Like, who knows how this is gonna work? And then we get to end where he and Glenn are on this trash can, and all I was wondering was how in the world are they gonna get out of this? That's all I was thinking. Was how is this gonna work? Where the two of them are trapped up there. For a second, I was honestly worried that he was just gonna shoot Glenn. I thought he just lost. He was gonna lose his mind, and he was gonna flat out shoot Glenn. And that's what had me worried. I was like, I think he's gonna shoot Glenn because he's gonna like save him, and then he's gonna shoot himself. And they're like, all right, we're both we're both gone. We neither of us have to really deal with this. But instead, he turns to Glenn. He's like, thank you, pretty much for helping him. Like, cause he ends up killing the zombified version of someone else that he used to know, and so he continues on, and it's like he's kind of getting a different form of himself because Glenn is kind of helping him out, and he moves past what happened with Noah, and so he's like, okay, I've changed and I've grown at least a little bit. We really don't see how much he grew because we skip a certain amount of time from the last season. So really, we only got 1 day worth of time, which was the last episode and this one. And so all of that kind of doesn't amount to much when he's just like, thank you. And then he blows his brains out. And at first I was like, holy crap, he killed himself. That was simple. I shouldn't say simple, but it was surprising. It was like, okay, that can happen. It wasn't the biggest shock because of, him freaking out. It kind of made sense by the end. And then what didn't make sense was how he fell and Glenn fell as well. That, I think, is one of the main reasons I'm pretty sure Glenn is alive, because that would be a horrible way for them to kill that character, where he died because this guy killed himself and fell on him and they both fall over on the ground. And also the way they shot it, I don't think it was Glenn, because we don't, like, obviously it's like a horde, so they'd be covering them up, but it's also television, so they could make the horde look however they want to by saying shift this way, shift that way, so we could see a top-down view of exactly what's happening. But we only see one angle, and it's of Glenn freaking out, basically, and looking, and just the way that it looked, it was very interesting. Like, even when I was watching it, I was kind of in the moment where it was like, they killed Glenn, which is insane, but on the other side, I was like, just where they're pulling from looks a little far from where Glenn is, and it's like super close to the camera, but Glenn is head, like, he's not that long of a human being, and I'm like, the focus on Glenn and how the intestines look super close to the camera, I'm like, that just doesn't match up with just one linear body, and I thought that's a little bit too high, or it's a little bit too close, and I guess it was weird, and I noticed because I've got this camera, which actually, some things are blurry like that, and then you can see me like that through my fingers, and that's what I noticed with the intestines. I'm like, it just looks so far away, like his head from like where the intestines were, and it kind of makes sense a little, but it also seemed like it was a little raised. So I'm hoping that Nicholas did fall on him, and that's how that played out, and it's not actually Glenn. And we'll just have to wait and see whether or not that's true. I feel like they're going to save it for like 2 episodes and make us think like Glenn is dead. If he's really dead, that sucks, because that is probably the worst way they could have killed a character. And by that, I mean, like, satisfaction-wise, like, the stuff with Noah, that was horrible that happened. But the way that it was done, I can at least respect it. I hate it because it just made me hate that guy, and then, I love Noah as a character, and then it was really messed up how that happened, too. But this was like, the guy killed himself, and it was just like sort of the TV thing where people are clearly in one position, and then they do the next shot, and it's like, he obviously wouldn't have fallen on Glenn like that, because he was looking at him, and even the way they did it was weird, because he shoots himself, and it's clear that, like, if I was Glenn, you guys would be Nick, and so Nick shoots himself, and, like, all his blood is on, like, Glenn's face, but it, like, clearly comes from the side, and that was something I noticed. And then the next shot, they're both falling over. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but that's, how TV things work. They kind of just edit stuff that way. So if that is the actual death of Glenn, I would be really disappointed by it. But based on just how it looked, and of course some of the comments I read, which I'm totally fine if that's true, and I was slightly spoiled by that because I don't want Glenn to be gone. But like I said, I don't know 100%. But even while I was watching it, I was like, I'm pretty sure that just looks a little off. Like it just makes it seem like he's so far away from where like they have the intestines. It just seemed like it was just too far, like a little bit too far. So I'm going with he's not dead and that it was Nick. And they're going to kind of pull the season 1 move where he has the guts on him and they're totally distracted and he'll just, kind of sit there and probably like, rub some of the blood on him and they'll just kind of move along once something else, comes by and distracts them. But I'm hoping he's alive. If it does turn out, if they go wherever and they find both of them, that would be devastating because I really don't want that to be the way we lose Glenn. I don't want us to lose Glenn in general, but that would be a horrible way for them to do it. Personally, I just think that would be a crappy way to do it. And and it makes sense a little bit. It would be cool story wise because it's this person that he's been trying to help out and who got another main character killed, but he's still stuck by him because Glenn is like early Rick, and he's always stayed that way. Like Rick, obviously we've seen real change. Like I'm a cop, whatever, I do what I want type of character, and Glenn has kind of stayed the same all the way through, and that's what makes his character so entertaining. And I really hope they didn't actually kill him off. I'm going with he's still alive. Like I said, I read some comments, but you never really know because you could film a bunch of different episodes at one time. You could just stay on set to see what comes up next for like a day or something. So I don't really know. Like I'm hoping he's alive, but just have to wait and see 100%. There'll be a great twist if he is. So that's what I'm going with. I hope he's alive, and we probably won't get the answer next week. It'll probably be in 2 weeks if they do it. Based on the preview, it seemed like we're getting like some flashbacks, really, because I don't know where the heck Morgan was in that opening shot of the promo, but it was like he was on the beach, like in a martial arts movie training. So I'm pretty sure that's a flashback. It would be very interesting if it wasn't, but I like this episode. That was something. That was pretty crazy. Them killing off all the different characters in this episode and having, Michonne looking after these people, especially the husband who was bit really early on. It was something. That was really crazy to watch because we had the first guy who was mad at Rick, and he's like, we're out here because of him, and basically he got us killed. Him dying was the weirdest thing in the world to me because it's like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. And then after Rick's talking about not everyone's gonna make it, he's just off like 10, 30, 40, 50 feet away. It wasn't even remotely 10 feet. It was way more than that. And it's just like, and he's just dead in the background. I'm like, what the heck was he doing? Where a zombie just ate him. He was just out there away from this big, nice little chunk of people. He's just off, by some trees, like peeing, I guess. And then a zombie just bites him, and it's like, what was he doing? And it was kind of surprising. I guess it was kind of like, he was similar to the guy from the first episode. I was like, oh, we got another one. And then they didn't even waste time with him. They were like, he's not even getting a full episode. He's just dying. So he's gone. Then we have sort of the whole zombie shuffle thing going on. The idiot young person in the group is just like flinging a gun around. He shoots one guy in the leg. Then he just bolts. I don't know what that plan was, but obviously it got him killed. He was, we find, his hat. Then we find him just open with a bunch of zombies. And then we keep going through. We go through. The first person we lose after that was the woman who broke her ankle, which I thought that kind of sucked. I was like, she could make it. And it was before things got really crazy. And, she tells them to go on. It's like, don't even bother. Like, the horde's here. I'm done for her. I would have been, I don't know, I felt like she didn't fight enough. Like, she was yelling. It was sort of a TV thing where they yell. And it's like, you can yell and move at the same time. Like, just roll over or something. Sorry, I hit the thing. But, like, just roll over or something. Like, just roll sideways across the street. I don't know, just something, but yeah, she went down shooting. Like, she got a couple of them, and of course they surround her. They eat her. Then they're trying to climb up this gate, and I thought for sure that that was going to be kind of simple until they both got grabbed. It was Michonne and the husband, and I was like, maybe they'll actually get out of this, but that does not take place. They kill the husband off. And we see the note, and it gets stepped on by a zombie. I thought Michonne might have picked it up for a second, but it's like, that goes. They just have to tell Betsy that it was over. And that really sucked. It was like, man, they're just losing everybody. But our last three characters, they make it. Seemingly, Nick and Glenn get killed off, as well as, like, everyone seemed to die. So we basically only had three people. And I thought for sure, when they were in the water and he stopped, I thought it was going to be a zombie in the water, because, like, he stopped and he felt something that was really weird. And I thought a zombie was going to come up and, like, eat the other guy, and then it would just be Michonne and the other main character. And I was like, but fortunately that's not what happens. All three of them get back, and I was like, okay, at least they saved one of the injured people. And, then there's kind of the iffiness with Glenn, and maybe not. And then we had Rick's stuff, where, like I said, he was on, like, a one-man army sort of mission. So he goes through, when they have the scene where the zombie has the machete, and I was like, that's really cool. I thought that was a cool little setup. And, of course, he ends up using it. But before he does, he gets cut on his right hand. I was doing this, but he gets cut on his right hand. Or no, it is his left hand. Yeah, he gets cut on his left hand, because in the comic, it's his right hand that gets chopped off. But in this, they might do his left hand. They put a huge focus on it, because, of course, it cuts him. I feel like they've done that before, though, where someone's been cut and stuff like that. So, it may result in nothing. But it seemed like they were kind of playing with it for sure, because it was like, oh, he cut his hand, and it got stabbed through that zombie, so there was zombie blood on it, and it cut him with that blood, and so he's bleeding, and it cut him deep because he had to actually, like, put some tissue and stuff on it. So I don't know if they're gonna actually go with that, which would be insane if they actually cut his hand off in the TV show, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I don't think they will, because I think at this point, if they go with that, it wouldn't make sense that he'd only chop his hand off, because, I mean, even just with what he was doing, that was more than enough time to where it would have got through his whole system. So I think it was kind of just a little reference, and it kind of freaked me out for sure. But I loved his stuff because he's just running and running. Then we get the end scene, and he doesn't hear back from Glenn, and I thought for sure, I think what he was going to say, and obviously this is sheer speculation because we'll never know, but I feel like he was about to say that he thinks Glenn was dead, because he knows how things operate. Everyone does. Like, if someone isn't responding, it's not because they just don't have a signal or something random like that. It's probably because they're dead. And I feel like that's what he was about to say. Like, he was thinking, because he already said this stuff about, we aren't going back. This is for them. If we go back, it would be for us. And then he was just sitting there, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's going to mention Glenn. But it doesn't matter, because right before that happens, here comes one of the wolves, which I did not expect at all this episode. I didn't think we'd see any of them in this. So we get two guys taking on Rick. He destroys them. And then there's, like, I think there are, like, three people on the side of the RV. And he just lights up the side of this RV and just mows them down. And that was a pretty crazy scene, too. I was like, man, that was pretty cool. And then, of course, he's trapped in the RV. Or not necessarily trapped in it, but RV's not working. Here comes the other half of the horde just walking right towards him. So I'm sure he's just going to get out and take off. I don't know where he's going to go exactly, but he's in the RV. Things are insane. The madness at Alexandria is ended by the end of this season. So all of that's done. We have the other part of the horde with Abraham, Sasha, and Daryl. They're still leading the rest of the horde out, and they did some really cool shots with that. Like the scene where Daryl actually turns around because the plan's actually working with Rick. He turns around, and I love the shot that they have where he's driving and they pan back, and it's just a huge wide shot. I just like that because we don't get that very often in the show, and that didn't include zombies either. So it was actually just like this could be any show, and it's just a nice, peaceful shot of a guy on a motorcycle. I was like, that actually looked nice and peaceful, and they may have done that on purpose because of the very end scene where we get another great big wide shot, but this one instead has all those zombies falling behind the car and the motorcycle, and it's kind of a huge contrast where it's like this nice peaceful part of just open land, and it's like just an open road. It could have been any show or commercial or anything, and then we get the end shot, and it's like that's The Walking Dead. That is as grand as the Earth may be, and all the beauty that there is. There are more than enough zombies to cover it, like in this space. So I like the way that they did that. Whether it was intentional or it was just like let's just get some cool shots because we can. Either way, I loved it. But this was a really nice episode. It was crazy how they were just killing off even more people that we don't know. Like, admittedly, it still sucked. Even though I didn't know like any of these characters' names or anything like that, it still really sucked a lot. Like I said, I kind of had my guesses. Like the husband would probably live because he's dying anyway. I didn't think they'd kind of double up on it. Like, oh, he was already bit. And then it was like, oh, nope, now he's just a sheer torture. And they just stood there. I was like, man, Michonne should, like, just stab him in the head or something and just put him out of his misery. But they're, like, just looking at him in horror. And then they left. I was like, man, I probably would have just ended it for him because that was really bad. He was just being bit all over. And it just seemed worse to just kind of let him deal with that. But that's kind of just how it went. And then they had to get out of there. But I like this episode. Some crazy stuff, for sure. I don't think Glenn is dead, but of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please, comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And of course, I want to know whether or not you guys think Glenn is dead or alive. Because, I've already given my opinion. I don't think he is. But if they confirm it in the next episode or the one after, that would really suck. And it would make me, honestly, a bit disappointed just in the way that it happened. And I'm still a little mad about, even if he is alive, I'd still be mad just about the way it happened because of how they were obviously across from each other. And then the next scene is like, oh, he fell, and then Glenn fell with him or something. Because you wouldn't grab a guy who just blew his brains out. There's no reason whatsoever to do that. You know that he's dead and his body is about to fall. You aren't gonna, waste your time doing that. So if he is officially dead, I would be so mad that that's how they did it. And story-wise, like I said, it would be interesting, but just physics-wise, it would really bother me because it just didn't make any sense. But either way, fun episode. I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.